There comes a point in every photographer's journey when you realize something uncomfortable. You've done everything right and your photos still don't work. They're sharp, well exposed, technically correct, and yet they feel empty. So you start blaming the gear, the settings, the editing. That's exactly where I was, until after 12 years and hundreds of thousands of photos I realized something simple that changed everything. In photography, and especially in street photography, we often find ourselves walking the same streets day after day, lifting our camera to capture anything and everything that catches our attention in the moment, ending up with folders upon folders of images. At least that's how it was for me. In the beginning, I was taking ugly photos, hundreds of them. Over time, those photos became okay, and slowly they became nice. But nice, as good as it sounds, it felt kind of empty. Because the truth is, you can capture photos that are right. They follow the rules, they are sharp, they even have interesting elements, and still they don't work. They look right, but they don't feel like anything. And that was the moment when I realized something that it was very hard to admit. Many of us have been there. You see an alley with interesting light, so you wait for someone to pass underneath. Eventually, someone does. You press the shutter and the photo is done. It's sharp, the light is pleasing, the rule of thirds is perfectly respected. Maybe you post it on Instagram, you get a few likes, and for a moment it feels like it worked. But soon enough, that photo becomes just another addition to a growing pile of forgotten images. Then you go out again and you repeat the same process. You take the same shot, post it again, get a few more likes, feel seen for a brief moment, and once again, the photo is forgotten. Do this enough times and eventually you start to feel stuck. Because these are the kind of photos that get rewarded quickly, but they don't get you anywhere. And that frustration gets redirected. You start blaming your camera, your lens, the light. You convince yourself that something external needs to change. So you buy more thinking that this time it will be different. But instead, you fall right back into the same cycle. It's like being in a boat, staying close to the shore and wondering why you never reach the island across the sea. And instead of paddling further, you buy a different paddle and you stay in the same place. And there is a reason why this happens. And although this reason might be subtle, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Using nice doesn't mean meaningful. Most of the times it means safe. Safe composition, safe subjects, safe one-dimensional narratives. Nothing unexpected, nothing uncomfortable, nothing that asks anything from the viewer. One of the realizations that truly moved my photography forward was understanding that photography is not a monologue, it's a conversation. A conversation between the person taking the photo and the thoughts of the person looking at it. The strongest images are the ones that spark that dialogue, the ones that raise questions and trigger emotions, both for the photographer and for the viewer. Because if a photo speaks but no one really hears it, it's forgotten. You look at it, you acknowledge it, and you move on silently. And once I understood this, everything started to change in an unexpected way. If this way of seeing photography is starting to resonate with how you feel, hit the like button and consider subscribing. It really helps me to keep making these videos. Now, the realization that photography is a dialogue and just nice was not enough was a major turning point for me. And the truth is, the path to that realization is often long and at times lonely, because insights like this don't really come from the outside. So where does this turning point come from? Sometimes it comes from frustration, but more often it's built through smaller, quieter changes. For me, it was a combination of things. I started exposing myself to more photography. I started studying the work of people I admire, from contemporary photographers to older masters, and even exploring classical art. I began paying more attention, asking more questions, and trying to understand what actually makes an image stay. But it didn't just come from observing, it also came from doing. From going out more, shooting more, with whatever gear I had without overthinking it. Part of it came from the fatigue of repeating the same process, and part of it came from a deeper need to understand why I was taking photos in the first place. But more than anything, it came from a shift in mindset. I need to be more present, I need to explore more, and to stop trying to control something that it was never meant to be controlled. Because photography is about capturing light that reveals life, and life needs only a small nudge to turn a fleeting moment into a meaningful image. But that change in mindset led to a complete change in my photographic process. What changed wasn't just the way I thought about photography, but the way I approached the entire process. From the moment an idea appears in my mind to the moment I review my images afterwards. I began allowing ideas to form freely, even the ridiculous ones, and that gave purpose to everything that followed. It made me pay closer attention to what the photo was really about, because without a clear subject, even a simple frame can feel random, like a story without a main character. Instead of chasing perfect compositions or perfect light, I shifted my attention to finding moments and characters that would bring those ideas to life. And that naturally changed the way I moved through a scene. I became more patient, spending more time in one place and returning to the same place again and again. After more than 6 years shooting in a small city like Cambridge, it made me realize that interesting moments don't necessarily come from new places, but from being in the right place at the right time. The more you walk in the same streets, the more likely you are to catch those brief flashes when something happens. But I also learned to be okay even when nothing happens at all, to return home with one or even no good images, knowing that the process is what changed your eye. That also changed the way I relate to my photos afterwards. I stopped judging them immediately. I rarely delete images, neither on the camera nor later, because I learned that as your eye develops, you begin to see things that you were previously blind to, like subtle interactions, details, or layers. And finally, editing. I used to push weak images too far, trying to make them look good, but I moved past that. Now I keep it simple. If an image needs more than a few minutes of editing, it's probably not strong enough, and I move on. I've also committed to a consistent editing style so I can focus more on the story rather than the look. In that sense, photography stopped being a process that happens after I take the photo and became a process that starts before I even go out and only ends when a photo has found its place within a body of work. A process that gives me direction while still allowing me to be creatively free, and a process that transforms my images, not because it makes them technically perfect, but because it finally gives them a reason to exist. At the end of the day, anyone can take a nice photo. In fact, eventually, most of us end up there. We learn the rules, we refine our technique, we chase the clean, polished result. But that's also where things start to break down, because nice is often where growth slows down. It's the point where images work but don't say much, and without realizing it, many of us stay there. I know I did. For years. And the truth is, photography is more than just staying close to the shore, repeating what feels safe. It is a journey to something deeper. It's a space where you can explore, take risks, and discover how far your creativity can go if you allow it. So the next time you go out to shoot, don't ask yourself if the photo looks nice. Instead, ask yourself this: does it make you feel something? Does it stay with you? Because that's the difference between an image that is seen and one that is remembered. And be honest with yourself. Are you chasing photos that work or photos that mean something? Let me know down in the comments. If you are enjoying this kind of content, give it a like and consider subscribing. And if you want to understand why your photos feel flat, click and watch this video next. That was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you on the streets. Bye bye.